We're actually on time. It's crazy. Okay, we'll be starting here with Justin, who will make his opening statement. You have 1 minute. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Let's get the timer right. Have you got that ready to go, Dorothy? Okay, Justin, you now have 1 minute to make your opening statement.
Good morning, Sun City. I'm so excited to be here this morning. I want to introduce myself. My name is Justin Early. I'm running for Congressional District 31 right here in Georgetown. I live here, live near the square, and I raised my family here in Williamson County, and I grew up in Bell County and Williamson County as well. I joined the military as soon as I graduated high school, and I served in the Pentagon at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and served in the Pentagon as well. Today, I work in cybersecurity for Dell Technologies, protecting the systems that make our democracy and our economy stronger. But we see these things under threat. And so I decided that I was going to get up and run and try to be your next congressional representative, because this is about people, this is about our freedoms, and this is about protecting our democracy. You can see more of me at votejustinearly.com, and I'm very excited to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. It's a great crowd, and we really appreciate the participation. It's extremely important. I am Stuart Whitlow. I'm running for the U.S. Congress, Texas District 31. I was the Democratic nominee in 2024. I believe that laid the groundwork for me and for my campaign to have a good name recognition and good base of support. Of course, many of you here at Sun City have supported me throughout my runs, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm an attorney, been an attorney for 35 years, been a litigation attorney, representing everyday people against big companies and big corporations. I have, ready to fight for you. I've fought all my life in these cases, and now I want to take that into my campaign and also up to D.C. and representing you as your attorney up in D.C. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Stuart will have our first question. Neither of the candidates have held public office before. Was there a specific event or person that inspired you to run? Stuart, you'll be first.
Really, what inspired me to run, I was, in 2023, I was finishing up my time at the Texas Legal Services Center and realized that I could spend my full time working on politics. I saw the dark clouds of Trump possibly returning to office, and we've seen how that's worked out not well at all. So at the time, I thought, well, I need to consider what I can do to help politically. I met with several political advisors, one of them being James Tallarico, who encouraged me to run against John Carter, as well as other people who encouraged me. Basically, it came down to my sons, wanting to represent them. They are 21 and 23 years of age, and the last thing I want to see them do is to spend their lives under a MAGA dictatorship. Instead, we want to have a full-fledged democracy and make it better than it ever has been before, and that pretty well explains that. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin, I'll read you the question again. Same question. Neither of you held public office. Was there a specific event or person that inspired you to run?
That's a very tough question because I feel like every day gives me more inspiration to be running. But specifically, I have a very deep faith in humanity, and I'm an extreme optimist. And so when Donald Trump won the first election, I thought surely this wasn't going to happen, and it did. And then it happened again in 2024. And so I hit my dark funk, and it felt it within me. And then it started happening on the news where the Doge cuts were happening, and those things were taking place. And so that's what spurred me, because I understand how government is supposed to work. When you work for a tech company, you can fire somebody on this side of the equation, and then all of a sudden your balance sheet looks higher. But in the government, you can't do that because you have to balance people on both sides of the equation. If you let go of people or services here, you're going to have more need on the other side. And so the understanding of that happening, because my parents receive over 80% of their money, their monthly check, because they're both retired from the U.S. government. And I saw my parents being at risk for these type of systems, and they're not understanding how these services are for people, they're not for bottom lines.
Thank you. All right. Justin, let's see, Justin will be first, Bob, on this next question. You'll get the rhythm. You stay there for the next question. You'll get the rhythm. Okay. As a member of the U.S. House, should you succeed, Tell us which committee assignments you'd seek and why you think you're qualified to sit on these committees.
Absolutely. You know, there's a lot there to do. My history has been being in the military and protecting systems and being part of critical infrastructure really leads me towards Homeland Security and Armed Forces Committee. Those are the number 1 and 2. Separate of that, though, I have a really big, strong understanding of cybersecurity and AI and where AI policy is, and I want to be able to shape AI policy for our country, and so that leads to the Energy and Commerce Commission as well. But of course, the most important thing when I talk about my campaign, which is affordability, responsible technology, and defending our democracy, the third one of that is the most important, defending our democracy. And that comes in at the Oversight and Accountability Committee, because that's where we can actually hold these agencies accountable.
Thank you. Stuart, same question. As a member of the U.S. House, tell us which committee assignments you would seek and why you think you're qualified to sit on these committees.
I will first seek to be on the Oversight Committee, which I think is extremely important, given this Republican Congress laying down to President Trump. We haven't had oversight. That's the first basic thing we need. Bringing people in with subpoenas, interrogating them, asking them questions, taking depositions, getting to the bottom of what has happened with respect to President Trump's corruption, President Trump's taking over and usurping congressional powers, etc. Also, I really want to be on the Judiciary Committee. I've been an attorney for 35 years. They oversee the courts. For one thing that they do a number of things, but we really need to reform our United States Supreme Court. Obviously, they've been a very big disappointment, and I believe that we need to take steps to expand the Supreme Court so that we can once again have a Supreme Court that is fair and really seeks justice instead of seeking what is good for President Trump. That immigration is also an area that is handled by the Judiciary Committee. I think that's a very important area. The third one is the Ways and Means Committee. I want to tax people that have all this money, the multimillionaires, the billionaires, and I want to give a big tax cut as a result to the middle class.
Thank you. All right. So you will go first on this question. Stuart, many of us, we have 2 really amazing Senate candidates running the primary against each other. But many of us who watched the debate between Talrico and Crockett, some of us saw it was very friendly, more of a difference in style than substance. They're both very substantial, but in terms of their differences, style and substance. How will your campaign style help you defeat your Republican opponent in the general election? Have a minute.
Yes, I think the first thing I need to show people is that I am a true fighter, and I will fight for you all on the campaign as well as up in D.C. I've been an attorney, as I've said, for 35 years, handling major litigation matters, and have been a very successful attorney. And the only way to do that is to be a fighter. And that's exactly what I've done and what I will do for you. Of course, I need to listen to people, show them I will listen to people on the campaign trail. I will hear what they have to say. I'll take it very seriously, and I will proceed with what they would like me to do. So that is really how I would proceed with my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Same question for you, Justin.
Yes, so I believe campaign style is very important. Right now, the number one thing I believe the state of Texas, and actually said this to a school assembly on Thursday, was that this is not a red state, it's a non-voting state. And so how we have to get people out to vote is to motivate them, to inspire them. And so my whole goal is also to be that inspirational candidate. So my campaign style is to be there with the people, communicate with them, have open communication and conversation, but most importantly, listen. And then take that information and then let them know who I am, where my heart is, but then also let them know I will be there for them and fight for them. This campaign is very important. This election is very important because while we feel that democracy is slipping away from us, not only do we need a fighter and somebody to be there for us, we need to make sure we have a friend and a neighbor there with us, because if too many people at the top or in Washington are not living our day-to-day existence, they can't help legislate our day-to-day existence. And so I'm here to make sure they have the inspiration and understand that I've lived like them and I will fight for them.
Good. Okay, we'll be first, and this question is kind of a follow-up to that question. And this is, how do you plan to engage young or first-time voters who have become cynical about the motives of both parties?
Great question, and I think it's super important as well, not only to show for here today, but also to continue all the way through November. And so, first and foremost, I want to say I'm very proud of, like I said, I want to be inspirational and motivational. I have 2 people on my campaign today who, one, never had the opportunity to vote because he'll turn 18 on March 2nd. So he wants his first vote to be and for me, and he's working on our youth campaign. He's our youth coordinator. And second is a gentleman here tonight who's never voted before, but he's also on my campaign. And I take that so proudly and to heart, because that means that I'm actually communicating with people, I'm connecting with them. To connect with first-time voters, you have to let them know that they're a partner in your organization. They're not just somebody you're talking at, but you're talking with them. When you connect with youth, when you connect with people who've never voted before, they want to make sure you have the shared values that they have. And we talk about kitchen table issues, which is affordability, healthcare, groceries. These are things that everybody concerns themselves regardless of what side of the aisle they're on. And that's where I want to walk and talk with them in order to get them on board with us.
Yeah, thank you. Whitlow, same question for you. How do you plan to engage young or first-time voters who've become cynical about the motives of both parties?
Well, I have two sons that are 21 and 23 years of age. That's very important to me, and basically the main reason that I'm running in this office, and I'm running for this office. I've been a rec coach throughout my days of rec basketball, baseball. I've always had a great relationship with younger people and my son's friends and people in that cohort. I was just out at Hutto yesterday, actually the day before yesterday, as the Hutto students had a walkout with respect to what's been going on with the ICE situation, with the unfortunate murders of Renee Good and Alex Petty. And that group was, let me tell you, extremely energetic and extremely excited. And they guaranteed me that when I was speaking, I asked them, will you be ready to go through November and keep, even if you cannot vote, get your parents to vote, participate in phone banks, block walking? And let me tell you, they had a resounding yes to that question. So I feel like we have an incredible group of young people. I feel like I have really a gift for relating to younger people, and that is, here again, inspired by my own two sons. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Stuart, you will be first to answer the next question. Barring a sudden surge from the ShamWow guy, you will likely be facing an 84-year-old John Carter in November. That makes him a pre-baby boomer. How many baby boomers? So before, how will your generational identity play a part in your campaign?
I don't really plan on spending too much time on my generational identity. We have many of you out here today, of course, that are in my generation, and you're very active and you're great Democrats, and we really appreciate that. We also know, for example, that we have a number of members of our generation who are on the Republican side, and Sun City Republicans who are not doing the things that we think they should do. In fact, exactly the opposite. But I will run circles around John Carter. There's no doubt about that. People will see that immediately. I will outthink him, I will outspeak him, and I'll show up to events that he never shows up at. So I have no problem with taking on John Carter. I've actually known him since I was 14 years old when he came to Round Rock as a town lawyer when I was born and raised there. And so I'm fully ready to take on John Carter. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin, same question. Will your generational identity play a part in your campaign?
Yes. I'm a Gen Xer, very proud Gen Xer. A friend of mine sent a meme. It said every generation has a blue dog, and they showed boomers had Huckleberry Finn. You know, there's Bluey, but then my blue dog was Snoop Doggy Dog, and so I thought that was great. If we were only focusing on John Carter, if that was the only person we had to talk to, then yes, you know, that would be a great idea to do. But I believe that there's 766,000 people in this district, and we can't just focus on one individual. We have to focus on all of us, because it's going to take all of our votes in order to go up and forward. If we look at Congress today, it's skewing younger. There are more Gen Xers than boomers, and of course that means there's less silent generation as well, which John Carter is. But also we're getting millennials, and we're getting the first younger people into Congress as well. So we're moving the pendulum in that direction, and I believe part of that swing, when we saw with Taylor Remick, we saw with Kristen Minifree, people are looking for younger candidates in order to replace the current administration or current people that are now.
All right, thank you. This is also for Justin. If you win the primary, how will you overcome the obstacles of our heavily gerrymandered district in the midterm elections?
Yes, you laugh, but actually, I don't think it's that bad. They took a lot of chunks out of other places. They sacrificed, Williamson County in 3 different districts, maybe 3 different districts. The Panhandle is pretty, you know, all selected in one area. But then here in 31, they added they added Killeen back in. And that's a lot of black and brown communities that were previously not represented. And so those are people that I'm speaking to, that I'm actually out in Killeen every single week, two times a week talking to them. Because like I said before, this is not a red state, it's a non-voting state. And so while John Carter got scared and frightened from what MJ Hagar did to him in 2018, if she would have ran a second time, she could have toppled over him, but she chose to do something else, and that's her choice. I believe now that Killeen is back in, John Carter may be very nervous because they had to sacrifice Temple, Leander, and Round Rock in order to get the numbers where they were, but that means adding Killeen back in. So part of my inspiration is to talk to Killeen, to get them out there and actually get them to vote for somebody who's going to represent them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Same question for you, Stuart. If you win the primary, how will you overcome the obstacles of our heavily gerrymandered district in the midterm elections?
We do, of course, have a heavily gerrymandered district. One thing that has happened recently, of course, is the Taylor Remitt election up in Tarrant County, in which he flipped 31% points. Trump has won by 17, and now Remitt wins by 14, by stressing basically affordability and just kitchen table issues. So I agree with Jess on this point. It's not as bad of a situation as it previously existed. There's been a major shift in the vibe in our district. Of course, we have to work very hard. We have to go everywhere, talk to Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, whatever club that will allow us in to speak to them, Republicans, etc. But the independents and Hispanics are shifting our way. We need to speak to them heavily to make sure that that continues. I think that it's I've been an attorney for many years, as I've said. I'm not afraid to go into situations where I'm going to be criticized or where people are going to give me a rough time. The opposing lawyers I've faced have done their fair share of that already. And so I'm very familiar with that and ready to move forward in that regard. Thank you.
Great. I want to apologize. I am staying neutral in this, but that woo was for women. If you heard it over my mic. What a great thing that we won that. Terrific. And we actually have some more women in here. So, all right, we are now back to Stuart. Tell us why someone who considers themselves a conservative ought to vote for you.
Well, John Carter has these signs up. He's had them up for years. Now they're completely irrelevant and misleading. He says, Republican conservative. He's not in any sense conservative. He's been supporting Trump, who's trying to tear down our democracy and doing away with our democracy, tear away our Constitution. How in the world could someone who say that is trying to do that and supporting that say that they're a conservative? I'm the true conservative in this race in terms of that. There's no doubt about that. I have we need to get out and talk to people that are of the Republican mindset, that still have their right minds about them and have not fully drunk the Kool-Aid. There's still some of those out there that talk to independents. So we need to continue to do that. So I believe if we talk about country over party, honesty, integrity, then we can help appeal to those conservatives. I have a friend, Shannon Ratliff, who was my mentor when I first started practicing law, a fantastic attorney. I ran into him in Starbucks a couple of months ago, and he said, Whitlow, we're on the same side now. We no longer can argue about policy. And I agree with that. And that's what we need to do with people we know who are in that ilk. Thank you.
All right, Justin, same question for you. Why should someone who considers himself a conservative vote for you?
First and foremost, I don't even know what the definition of conservative means anymore. That's the biggest question right there. When we talk about what a conservative is, we should really talk about what is actually hurting or bothering Americans. Are you better off today than you were before? Are you seeing the country go in the right direction that you think it's going in? And while we see all the polls that are saying that air quotes conservatives or people of that nature are not feeling that they're in a great situation today, what we need to do as a campaign and honestly as a party is to talk about those kitchen table issues, but also use the same language that they use. This is real freedom at risk. This is real liberty at risk. These patriotic issues that we talk about, that we love our country so much, we do love our country. And that's how we can talk to these conservatives. Specifically for me, I'm a soldier, I'm a veteran, right? So I'm gonna utilize all those tactics and understandings of what it meant for me to serve my country, to serve them again today. And so while we need to go and talk to everyone who will listen, we need to spend the time with those who are actually gonna hear our message, utilizing the same language.
Okay. The next question, we'll start with Justin. And this may be the hardest question for both of y'all to answer today. Tell us one thing the incumbent representative in District 31 has done that you agree with.
Yeah, well, I can give three, specifically three. Number one is he had authored and passed a bill that allowed veterans to have transplants, to be on a transplant list. Before, if you were in VA medical, you could not be on a transplant list outside of VA medical. So he wrote and he authored that, and that came from a real family here in the district who helped him write that. Second is the expansion of Fort Hood. And the expansion of the Veterans Memorial here, in the area in Bell County. Those are phenomenal things to allow us to feel pride in our nation and spend time, revering those who have served our country. And then lastly, he has, I forgot the third one again. Maybe I gave all three already. So, that's what he does. But the problem is when we expand Fort Hood and we don't take care of the cities around Fort Hood, that's something I think he has lacked in as well. So while we actually have a lot of things going on in Fort Hood, I've seen it over the years when I went to elementary school and saw it growing. To see it today, the city itself of Killeen and Copper Cove, they need more economic stimulus as well.
Okay, Stuart, you have the same question. Tell us about one thing or how many things you think the incumbent representative in District 31 has done that you agree with.
Of course, there's very little that I agree with John Carter and what he's doing. I'll state that very clearly at the beginning. I do think he brought a lot of money to the Fort Hood and the base up there and helped support it. That's declined markedly over the time since Trump has been in office, so that is kind of a drawback with respect to that. I just think that John Carter has, one other thing he did. In our election in 2024, suddenly we started seeing significant sums of money coming into like Round Rock's Texas State, up there in Temple, and I think this is one reason it's great for us to challenge him and put everything we can do forward, because he actually gets up off the duff and starts actually bringing some money to the district. Thank you.
All right, you'll be first to answer this next question, Stuart. At our last meeting here, some of you were here. At our last meeting, one of our speakers, Dr. John Ray, who's with us today, an expert in political science and public policy, spoke on the importance of being able to reframe questions in order to create a new consensus in a starkly divided political climate. For example, a question on the perils of climate change might be reframed as a question of insurability in the wake of weather disasters. Provide a question that you would reframe and explain how you would reframe it in the coming general campaign.
I would look at the issue of affordable daycare for people. I think that sometimes this is seen as some sort of liberal or progressive policy, but really we have an issue in our country where our population is declining and our birth rate is declining. We need to encourage people to have more children. If they realize that the child care costs and all the other costs that they face are going to make it almost impossible for them to afford to have children, that's not going to work. So providing them with affordable health care gives them much more incentive to have children. Furthermore, people are, with the lack of child care out there, many people have little incentive to work. They make barely above what they would, what the child care costs are. So maybe they're just as well to stay home and not work. And this is exactly what we don't need. A good child care system, a good daycare system will spur the economy and make us have a much more vibrant economy.
All right, Justin, same question. You want to repeat that for you?
No, sir. The question was on how I would reframe questions that provided to me. And I think while talking about reframing is very important, we really need to really concentrate on affordability, technical responsibility, and democracy, right? That's a reframing of the question. However, what I would do specifically is talk about AI, right? And people ask AI, is AI dangerous? And we can't talk about the dangers of AI, but you refrain and say, talking about the dangers of AI is very important. However, who's responsible when AI causes danger? Have we looked at the responsibility, who's going to be the responsible party? Because if we start talking about who is responsible for something, then you can talk about policies and actually putting them into place. The question of reframing is a great one because it shows how when we as politicians, when we get up there, how we steer the direction to where we want it to be. Because if you can't do that, you can't move anything. And that's where reframing is a very important question. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, kind of stay in this vein because this idea of reframing a question seems to have led us a little bit into women's health issues. And so the next question is, if elected, if elected, how would you use your office to advocate for women's health and reproductive rights?
Absolutely. So I think it's one of the top things to do. In the state of Texas, the number one issue in Texas' minds is healthcare, and women's healthcare is absolutely essential to us living as a species. Period. So number one, how would I use my office? Is it be used to protect, to provide law, and then provide funding for information and programs around women's healthcare issues. Secondly, to be an advocate and to listen to women, to have an open forum, to have women or people come here to discuss with us, but also for doctors. Just this last week, the Texas State, I can't remember which agency did it, put out documents that actually help doctors understand when they can provide legal abortion in the state of Texas. Because as we've all heard that women are dying because doctors could not act because they were fearful of what would happen to them. So there needs to be a federal floor, and absolutely that the states have to come up to in order to protect doctors, in order to protect women, in order for us to have women's health care move on to a further, better state in the U.S.
Stuart, you have the same question. If elected, how will you use your office to advocate for women's health and reproductive rights?
Well, the first thing we need to do is recodify Roe v. Wade. Make it the nation's law once again. This has been a serious problem, obviously, since the Roe v. Wade was overturned. We've had women basically the doctors are waiting to see how sick they can get. In other words, they have to be near death before the doctors feel like they can move in to help many women that are facing pregnancy problems and problems related to their pregnancies. People are having to go out of state. We need to have on the oversight committee, this is one thing we need to bring in people, depose them, subpoena them, so we get to the bottom of what exactly has been going on across the nation with respect to the overthrow of Roe v. Wade. Of course, women's health is combined with everyone's health. We need to expand these Obamacare subsidies that have been held back. This affects women as well as everyone else. It's costing people tons of money. Many of them are deciding just to do away with their own health care insurance. Many of them women, of course. We need to get those expanded. That battle will, unfortunately, probably still be going on when we get there. So I'm going to attack that very carefully and very hard.
Okay. Our next question, I think, is something that a lot of us have on our mind. If elected, what do you think the odds are that you'll be seated without an attempt by the Trump administration, even the Texas state leadership, to discredit your election? If there's an attempt to block the seating of a Democratic majority through force or political violence, how do you expect to respond?
I think this is a very, very serious question. You saw with the right after the Taylor Remnant election took place and he flipped that district 31 points, the next day or two, Trump is talking about nationalizing elections, taking over elections in 15 different states. So I fully think we have to expect them to do what they've been saying they're going to do. I think we have to really gird ourselves and get ready with our courage to be willing to hit the streets in massive numbers, because this may be eventually the only way we can actually stop this sort of power grab and this sort of continuation of this authoritarian movement we're seeing. So I encourage everybody to get ready and fortify yourself for that battle. Of course, we'll go to the courts. I've filed many lawsuits. If I have to file some with regard to the failure to seek me, I'll do that. I'll argue that. I'll prosecute that, as I've done throughout my adult life. So, but the courts, that's with the way the U.S. Supreme Court has gone, that has been a questionable approach. We need to be ready to hit the streets in massive numbers.
Thank you. Jesse, same question for you. Let me read that very quickly. If you are elected, what do you believe the odds are that you will be seated without an attempt by the Trump administration and or the Texas state leadership to discredit your election? If there's an attempt to block the seating of a Democratic majority through force or political violence, how will you respond?
The odds is the question. And I'll say, I don't have an answer for the odds, but what I will tell you is this. When I made the decision to run, it was absolutely a part of the calculus. Because we see where this is going. Him saying those words right after Taylor Remnant's win was honestly, we knew the writing was on the wall. We knew what the direction he wanted to go. It was in Project 2025, right? However, when I decided to make this run, I said, if that happens, we need somebody who's going to be front and center, who will not back down, who will not retreat, who will organize openly, stand up, and fight for our rights as for democracy. And that is literally what I'm doing here today. Because if they will not seat us, the Democrat majority is coming. We will vote them out. That is absolutely what we're going to do. But if they prevent us from getting up there and doing it, we will absolutely need to hit the streets hard. We will need to be loud. And I'm not certain if lawsuits are going to work, because I'm pretty certain they're not going to listen to that. They will listen to us in the streets, and they will have to hear us.
Sort of a follow-up question to this. If you're seated in the House, impeach or impede? If you're part of a blue wave in November, what will you recommend to your colleagues? And what are the ramifications of either approach to the current administration?
Great question. So as a follow-up, so first I want to say impeachment is not a campaign tool. It is not a slogan. We should not do that. Impeachment is long, arduous, and takes time. However, on the outside looking in, I see an individual in the White House who has taken bribes, who has committed treason, and who has committed high crimes and probably some misdemeanors. So the evidence is already there. However, during his first term, he's already had 4 House resolutions for impeachment already come up, and 3 of them by Representative Al Green in Texas specifically. And so while impeding would be great to do, we need to get together and band together to impeach. The problem is also we need to make sure we have senators on our side to be the jurors of that impeachment to convict him. So while I will absolutely work to impeach him, until that happens, I will absolutely impede. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Stuart, same question for you. Impeach or impede? If you're a part of a blue wave in November, what will you recommend to your colleagues? What are the ramifications of each approach?
We must both impeach and impede on a very, very vigorous way. I will vote to impeach President Trump. He's he's gone way overboard in taking over congressional powers that he doesn't have, and yet he's continually usurped those powers for his own benefit and his own authoritarian movement. He's also should be impeached for the corruption that he's engaged in, these pardons, in which he obviously receives millions of dollars for granting a pardon or lowering someone's tariff rate. Money just keeps flowing into him, and he's probably made billions of dollars since becoming president as a result of this. And so we need to impeach him. We need to impede him. One of the first ways we've discussed already, the Oversight Committee. Continually bring in people, make it clear to depose them, interrogate them, collect information from them, so the American people can see exactly what's going on in this country and will rise up in every way possible to stop it.
So the next question is also from Stuart. Taylor Remnick's name has come up a couple times, and we're all excited about the possibilities. If you're part of a blue, he recently won in a ruby red district, and that tells us change is possible. What did you learn from his success that you can bring into your campaign?
Well, he ran a very much a kitchen table type of campaign. In fact, his main commercial was him sitting at the kitchen table with his mother and father and talking about the lack of pay, the low pay that people are receiving these days. The fact that we are in fact having an affordability crisis, that people have a hard time making it from one month to the next, many of our people. I started an organization called Capital Idea here in Austin. We've expanded it to Williamson County, we've expanded it to Temple. It is a job training program. It's been award-winning. I helped start that in 1998, and it's been very successful. And people are coming out of that program making $62,000 a year with a plan for the future and also benefits. What we do is we pay their tuition at ACC or a similar type of community college. We pay their child care. We give them counseling, and it's been extremely successful. And I want to expand that program throughout the nation. I think it's just an excellent way. In addition to unionization, it's another way of raising the incomes of our people.
Well, Justin, same question for you. Taylor Remnick's recent victory in the Ruby Red District tells us that change is possible. What did you learn from his success that you may bring into your campaign?
Absolutely. I want to tell you guys a quick little story about Taylor and I. So when I first met Taylor, we hung out, it's we met each other at a union meeting down in Austin, and I was able to give a speech there. And after the speech, Taylor comes to me and he says, before I really didn't care if you win, but I really want you to win now. And so we've been talking pretty heavily about this. What we've learned from Taylor in his campaign is that it is about kitchen table issues, absolutely, but it's also more important about organization. It's about getting people out to go do something. He is the leader of the Texas IAM, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, and he mobilized the people in his area to get out and go and do. Some of my friends who work there, they were block walking every day. They were, volunteering to do phone banking every day. So what we really should take away from that is it's not the money that goes into it, it's actually the volunteers, the people. And that's the way I'm running my campaign, is on volunteers, hitting the ground and having a strong ground game. That's what I've learned.
All right, moving to answer this question, looking down the road a little bit, name 3 potential contenders for the Democratic nomination for president in 2028, and tell us which of those 3 you might support and why.
It definitely won't be me, that's number 1. But the 3 that I've thought about and looked at this are Gavin Newsom, Governor of California, J.D. Pritzker from Governor of Illinois, and then Kamala Harris, right? Former Vice President Kamala Harris. I am not thrilled as much for Gavin Newsom as some of you are in this crowd. He cozies up the billionaires. California today, not today, but California is trying to pass a billionaire tax where they're going to tax billionaires 5% of their income, a one-time tax. And Gavin Newsom stood up and said, he will do everything in his power to fight that. I believe most of our problems are because these people have too much money and we need to tax them. So I'm not really thrilled about him. I love his memes, but I'm not thrilled about his policies. Kamala Harris, while she did a great run in 107 days, did not make it. I want to see more of a future vision from her before I get behind her. But J.D. Pritzker, I love what he did in Chicago. I love what he did for the state of Illinois, standing up for people and standing up against ICE. So if I would put my vote behind anybody right now, it would be J.D. Pritzker.
Stuart, same question for you. Name 3 potential contenders for the Democratic nomination for president in 2028, and tell us which of those 3 you might support and why.
I was proposed Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, as well as Governor Pritzker of Illinois, and Gavin Newsom as 3 front runners as I see it right now. I would support Gretchen Whitmer. I saw her speak in the Democratic State Convention last summer. She was tremendous. I think she's had she's going under some criticism for trying to take care of her state and try to maintain some kind of relationship with the crazy Trump in order to keep her state on keel. But that's understandable. I think she can easily overcome that. She's a tremendous person and a person of great integrity. I just think that I agree that there's some problems with Gavin Newsom, although he could as well be a great candidate, as could Pritzker. And whichever one is decided upon in the Democratic primaries, you can bet your life that I will be supporting them with everything I have.
100%.
All right. What does polling say about your chances of winning your general election race, and what do you think of the polling?
We are going to, in the general election, once it begins, we plan to have a vigorous polling process going on so we can fully understand where the state of Texas and the people in our district are currently. We pretty well know where the Democrats are right now. We haven't done much polling other than meet with them constantly and hear from them to find out where they are, including you folks. So that will be a very important part of our general campaign strategy. Vigorous polling, finding out where, I think as we've talked about, our district is changing, the state of Texas is changing rapidly. We need to find out where Hispanics are, independents, moderate Republicans who still have their heads screwed on straight. And then after that, we need to be very vigorous in our campaign, our canvassing campaigns, our field work needs to be extremely aggressive, and that's exactly what we plan to do.
Justin, same question for you. What does polling say about your chances of winning your general election race, and what do you think about the polls?
Yeah, it's a great question, very valid. So similar to Stuart, we have not run any professional polling. We have done door-to-door polls. We did 2 of those while we're block walking. And so while we're seeing people who are very leaning strong support, we definitely know where the Democrats are, and not all those were Democrats that we've knocked the doors of. However, we do have a polling group on the staff or on as a consultancy for the campaign, and what we're taking from them is what they're seeing for nationwide polling and what it looks like over this blue wave, what's going to happen. And like I had stated before, it's definitely looking like younger, more progressive Democrats are winning. That's what people want to see. They want to see the energy. They want to see the mobilization. They want to know where their people are coming from to represent them. And so while we don't have professional polling today, we're absolutely separated for it to do that early on once we get past the primaries. And then we'll probably do 4 more throughout the entire process to make sure we're aligning with the people where they wanted to be.
Thank you. All right. We're running close to the end of our time, so I'm going to go ahead and move into the questions that were written specifically for each of you. I think we could switch them, but it's what I want to do is get you to answer these, and then after that we will go into closing statements. We'll trade just as we have for the questions, and we'll do that. So this one is for Justin. Is Donald Trump the cause or just a symptom of problems inherent in our system of government?
He is a result of the systems that are inherent in our government. These things did not start with Donald Trump, and they will not end with Donald Trump. One book that I had read, it was called Tyranny of the Minority, and it states in there that Donald Trump did not hijack the Republican Party, he best understood it. And so when you have that mentality, you understand that Donald Trump is not the true enemy. We need to get together and gather all of us to fight these ills and these evils that are in there. He's definitely the one taking the most advantage of it. He's definitely the one who's most vocal about it, but he is not the cause, nor is he the beginning of all these things. He's absolutely making it faster and making it worse. And so while I'm out here on the campaign trail, I understand what we have to do to talk to people to get past those things. Because these are things I've been dealing with my entire life. I like to joke, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm a black man in America. You know, it's not a shock, right? Talking to people who don't want to talk to me is my entire life. And so while I've been dealing with this for 45 years, I'm prepared to take that further when we get there. He is not the cause. The whole system is.
All right, and this is a unique question for Stuart. Given that you're trying to unseat a 13-term congressman, and that you, if you win, will be a first-term congressman, do you support term limits?
I do support term limits. I think that, for example, I think I would limit my term to my time in Congress to 8 years. I think that's enough time for one person to serve and actually make a difference, to learn the system well and do it. So I'm fully in support of that. I support term limits for senators as well. I think that we have people that have hung on way too long, way past their time, and we need to make sure that that does not continue in the future. So, the main thing we need to do right now is put a term limit on John Carter. Obviously, he's a prime example of 13 terms, 24 years, however long it's been, of someone that needs to go. And I think people across the district are realizing that he really does need to go. Republicans of the moderate nature, independents, Hispanics, and of course, Democrats.
Thank you. I believe, did you take the first question, Justin? Okay, let's let Justin go first here for the closing argument, and then we'll let Stuart go second. So your closing statement. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I just want to say first off, this has been phenomenal. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us, because I've actually enjoyed showing you who I am and communicating to you how I believe not only can we win past the primary, but actually flip this seat. It's going to take a lot of us to do these things. And one thing I had said, Stuart and I actually had an opportunity to speak with Austin American Statesmen, and they asked, what is it going to take to flip this seat? And it's going to take 3 things. It's going to take the math, the map, and the motivation. The Republicans gave us the map. That's where we had said earlier, is it gerrymandered or not? They gave us something that we can actually work with and move on here in 31. It could be a bright blue jewel in the middle of Texas. The math, it's there. We have to motivate people who are not voting, who are not going out, and I believe I'm that candidate to do that. And like I said, the motivation, I have the motivation. I want to mobilize. I want to get them out there in order to beat back the retroists, the racists, any other R's we can think of, because right now, this is the most important election in our timeline, because this is our generational test, and I'm here to come up to it. My name is Justin Early, and you can find more of me at votejustinEarly.com. And like I say, vote early for Justin Early. Thank you.
I want to once again thank you all for for coming today and staying throughout this fairly lengthy presentation. I appreciate you listening to what we have to say. I promise you that I'm going to work my rear end off and make sure that we defeat John Carter in the general election, if in fact you send me to that situation. This is a very serious moment. Even if we win, and I think we will certainly win, I really believe that, but we're going to have to probably do whatever we can in the streets to make sure that that victory allows us to be seated in Congress. And I'm sure you folks will be willing to do what you need to do. I'm going to be willing to do what I need to do. I'll be right out there in the front lines. As I've said, my sons are not going to face, and their friends and their cohort and these young people who are so fired up, particularly about the ICE situation now and maybe other issues by the time the election comes. We're going to be out there in the middle of all that, making sure that our democracy is safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a big hand. What a wonderful